Hey there, Fletcher from All Things Overlanding here, and today I'm going to be telling you about this Engwe M20 e-bike. I'm going to try and give you as much information about this value-priced e-bike as I can. I'm going to start by giving you all the dimensions, all the specs of this thing, and walk you through it. I'm going to talk a little bit about assembly and how easy it was or hard it was, and then I'm going to end with kind of my final thoughts on how I intend to use the bike. I'm also going to ride it around. I'm going to take you with me and do sort of a first-person view of me on the bike so you can see how it rides and how fast it goes, and give you a good feel for this bike. So if you want to learn more about the Engwe M20, basically electronic fat tire bike slash dirt bike, stay tuned.
Understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip.
All right, so let's start off by doing kind of a walk around of the bike. I just want to show you it in all of its angles and dimensions here, and then I'm going to kind of walk you through the specs. So this is the Engwe M20. I've ridden it 5 or 6 times now. I've only had it for about a month and a half. So again, I'm going to try and stick to the specs and kind of my experience with it so far. I'm going to talk a little bit about the assembly process and how that was. And then I'm going to end with kind of my ideas for how I intend to use this bike. So if you're into camping, overlanding, sort of off-roading, that kind of thing, how I intend to carry it and how I intend to use it and what I'm going to use it for. So these are the headlights. They have a dual headlight setup, which I really like. It kind of gives it sort of a motorcycle look. Same with the forks here in the front, which I dig on this bike. I just think it's cool looking for something to ride around. Obviously, you don't want to ride around on something that looks dumb. So I do like how this bike looks. When you just turn the bike on, the DRLs illuminate all the time. So it's basically a visibility thing so people can see you. Coming around to the rear here, they do have a brake light. So when you pull the brake handle, that will illuminate just to show people that you're slowing down, you're stopping. Your controls for the lights and the horn are located right here near your left hand. So if you hit that button, it will turn the headlights on. And they are actually pretty bright, which I've been really happy with. So if you are riding this at night, you do get a lot of brightness out of those dual headlights, which is a nice design. They are adjustable too with these bolts on the side, so you can adjust them up and down and kind of angle them the way that you want them. And then of course it does have a little horn too, so if you need to alert someone, you can honk that and beep at them to get them out of your way. Of course, these handles here are going to be your brakes. This is your front brake. This is your rear brake. So you can kind of use those as necessary to slow or stop the bike. It does come with 4 keys, which is really nice. And what those are for is actually not the bike itself, but they are to unlock your batteries. So if you had to park this somewhere out in public and leave it, you don't have to worry about someone stealing your batteries off of here because they're locked to the bike. So the seat is actually really comfortable. I was kind of worried about that just from my initial impressions looking at it, but the more time that I've spent on it, the more comfortable it actually is. It's more comfortable than my regular bike because it's not one of those styles that kind of the banana seat that kind of goes between your legs and forces you into awkward positions. This is more like a motorcycle, more like a sit on top type of seat. So it's actually really comfortable. You do have front and rear disc brakes, which work great. Stops the bike really well. And then you've got this built-in shock absorber on the rear and sort of the dual fork design on the front. So again, it's a really comfortable bike to ride off-road or on-road for long distances. So it's just nice that they've thought about all these things. The frame is aluminum alloy, so it is as light as they can possibly make it. However, this bike is a pretty heavy bike. So speaking of the bike being heavy, let's just kind of run down a list of specs here. So these batteries are basically 13 amp hour batteries. With the dual battery model, you get 2 of those, of course. So you basically have 26 amp hours worth of juice. They claim a max speed of 28 miles per hour. I've actually had the bike up to 40 in 4th gear. So it depends on the weight of the rider. It depends on the surfaces that you're on. But on like a smooth street, like my neighborhood street here, in 4th gear, if you are a little patient and give it some time to get there, I have had it up to about 40. But so they claim a 34-mile range on electric mode 1 and a 47-mile range in PAS mode 1. So basically if you're in pedal assist mode in the lowest setting, you can get up to 47 miles out of this thing. I intend to use it probably in the middle to high mode most of the time because range isn't really my interest. I'm more interested in like getting around quick, but just FYI, that is what they say that the max mileage is. Charging time from empty to full is about 5 hours, so just FYI. Both of these batteries do connect via a shunt, and in a lot of their videos, they mention that you have to install the second battery. I think maybe those videos are old because when my bike came, both batteries were already installed, so I didn't even have to do that, which was a really nice thing to find out last minute. Now, the way that the batteries function is that they actually will pull from the one with the most power first. So let's say that one battery happened to be at like 40% and one was at 50%. It's going to pull juice from the 50% battery first, and then when they get to the same level, then it will pull from both at the same time. So I assume too, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but if you guys know, post up in the comments down below and let me know. I assume that then it charges the same way. So on this side over here, you'll see there is a charging port on both of these batteries, but since they're synced together via the shunt, I'm assuming that if you plug in your charger to one, it's going to charge through that shunt and then charge both of the batteries. But again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. Another nice feature is that both of these batteries have a little hidden USB-A plug in there. So if you needed to charge your phone or something like that, you could plug it into that battery and get some juice off of that. Another thing is that you could shut down the batteries independently. So if you only wanted to use one battery for some reason to conserve power or something, to just run off the one and then have the other as a backup, you could do that. I generally just leave them both on and let it choose for itself how to pull the power. Now it does have a power button on the batteries too, so you can tap that and then it will show you what your batteries are at. So it's just kind of like a juice finder, so you can see how much power each battery has, which is a nice little feature. It's basically like checking your gas tank, right? So now as for transmission, it does have a Shimano 7-speed. Now the recommended height and weight that they say for this bike is someone should be between 5'2" and 6'2". That is the recommended height. And then for weight, they say it'll support up to 264.5 pounds. So, you know, that's a pretty good size adult. The bike dry without any batteries on it is about 77 pounds. Then if you have the single battery, it's about 94 pounds. And if you have the double battery, it's about 104 pounds. So it is a pretty heavy bike, as I mentioned earlier. So, you know, when I get into how I intend to carry the thing and how I intend to use it later, I will tell you a little bit about how I'm going to get it onto the truck and then off of the truck and show you a little bit more on that. All right, so but that will do it for the features. Now let's get into assembly and some of the tips that I can give you about that. All right, so when I assembled the bike, it was actually shockingly pretty easy. The way that the bike comes is it comes with the frame and the rear tire is on. You do have to put on the front wheel and you have to line up the brakes. That was probably one of the trickier parts, is that you do have to kind of line up that brake rotor with the caliper and make sure that everything is, you know, on there right and tight and not rubbing. So that is one thing that you do have to use a little bit of caution with. And then of course you do have to put on the pedals, so they come separate, but they have just basically like a lock nut on the end, and then you just put it in there, tighten them down, and those pedals are on and good to go. Again, they did mention that you had to install the second battery. I didn't have to do that. Mine came pre-installed. So again, maybe a change in production since the original videos that people made, but mine came pre-assembled with the second battery on it, which was really, really nice. Now, you do have to put the handlebars on, but again, it's pretty straightforward. You put them down on here, you lock it in. They provide all the tools that you need for it, and they have a really good walkthrough video on their website, so I will put a link to that down in the description below. If you're really looking for like in-depth assembly instructions, there will be a ton of information over there for you. I'm just more going to give you my opinions and my experiences with how it was for assembly for me. Aside from the front brakes and wheel getting on, that being a little bit tricky just to get everything aligned, the next most confusing part was the headlights. And I swear to you, if you're putting this bike together, you'll see what I mean. What I mean by that is these metal bars here on the side that hold the lights on are really narrow, way narrower than the forks. And I watched probably 4 or 5 different videos and no one ever talks about this. So that's why I'm putting it in this video for you guys, is to help you. When you put these on, I actually had to bend those metal bars a little bit. And again, no one talks about this or shows this anywhere, but if you are just using these bars and attaching them to the forks, they won't fit. There was no way that I could find to make this fit the way that it comes stock. So I just kind of put a little bit of steady pressure on both and bent them out a couple, millimeters, and then was able to put them around the forks and attach the inner parts, which there's just like a little piece of metal that goes around the inside and then a screw that holds that together into a nut. So once I got that on there, then it was fine. But I was very nervous about it. I'm like, why do I have to like bend these things, right? And again, if I did that wrong and someone has some tips, post up in the comments down below to help everybody out, because I cannot find a video anywhere that talks about how to get these things on. So again, just a little bend from me, popped them on there, attached them, wired them up. The wiring is really easy. There are harnesses that come out of the back of the lights, and then there's a harness that comes from the bike, and they just plug into each other. You can't get it wrong. It's really easy to do. So installation of that was really easy. You do have to put on the kickstand too. One note on that I will show you is it took me a little bit of figuring out. At first I was trying to put the kickstand on the outside of the mounting bracket, but it actually goes on the inside. So just a tip there, if you're looking at that and you're not sure if it goes on the inside or the outside, it does go on the inside of the mount. But again, other than that, throwing the fender on, super easy, just a couple of bolts. There's nothing too challenging, and the instructions are pretty good. So the assembly was not too bad overall. I'd rate it, pretty much anybody could do this. So now let's take the bike for a little ride. I'm going to take it down the street by my house here, and then I'm going to take it off-road on a path that goes kind of behind my house, just to show you kind of on-road and off-road. You'll see here as I get going that I'm in third gear now, and I am not pedaling at all. This is all 100% electric. And you can see the speed there on the left, about 36, 37, 38. I start to slow down for the stop sign, so it does go pretty fast. If you put it in mode 5 and you kind of give it the juice, it will get going, and it's a lot of fun. And if you go in the lower gears and give it juice, then it has even more torque. So think about your gear choice when you are wanting to get power or speed out of the bike. If you pick a lower gear, you're going to get a little bit more push out of that motor. And of course here you can see I'm going off-road, and you can hear it as it starts to spin up, and it will get going fast, so you do have to be a little bit careful. It can be a little sketchy at times if you're not careful. It's also been raining nonstop, so of course the environment was not perfect for this. But even so, with the big knobby tires, it did really well off-road. It rides great on these paths, and it's a lot of fun to ride just around trails and things like that. All right, so let's finish up with kind of my final thoughts on the bike and my intended uses for it as a camper slash overlander. Again, overall, really impressed with the bike. It is a budget priced bike. So for the single battery, it's about $1,000. Sometimes they have sales too, so keep your eyes on that. And then for the dual battery, it's about $1,200 bucks. So from the standpoint of e-bikes, I've seen a lot that are a lot more expensive, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 bucks out there on the market. So for my uses, I'm not a professional mountain biker, right? I'm not trying to go out and conquer a bunch of trails or anything like that. I literally wanted this for hitting some light trails and stuff when I go camping. Something is sort of a toy to use when I'm out camping and I want to do something besides sitting around a fire pit at camp. So that's kind of use number one. And I like this layout in this sort of almost fat tire motorcycle style because it supports that really well, right? It's great for off-road. It's super comfortable. The suspension is fine for my uses and feels really good to me off-road. Also, the fact that it's a bike and not an actual dirt bike is nice because I can pedal it. So if I ran out of juice, if I got too far from home, if I was running it too hard and I ran out of juice, I can still get the thing back because, again, it does weigh about 100 pounds. So it's not a light bike. It wouldn't be fun to push that thing back. But being able to pedal it and just ride it like a normal bike is pretty nice and pretty easy. Of course, if you do get stuck out somewhere or it gets dark, you've got headlights, you've got a brake light, so you've got all the stuff that you need to ride it on the road or to ride it off-road, which I really enjoy too. And again, for the price, the quality seems really nice. Like everything went together really nice. It's got a good feel to it. It's got a good heft to it. It rides really nice. It brakes really nice. It just feels like a really nice little e-bike. So let's get into my uses and kind of how I intend to carry it on my truck and then get it on and off at camp or at an expo. That's another way that I may use it is at, overlanding expos or things like that, kids soccer games. There's a million different places you could use this thing. I want to be able to sort of pop on it and then get around without having to put a ton of effort into it, right? Like just hit the e-assist and let it kind of carry me around at like an overlanding expo, for example. So I'm going to buy one of those hitch-mounted dirt bike mounts. I'll put a link in the description down below to the one that I'm kind of looking at. The one that I'm looking at has a little ramp that's included with it, which is really nice. There are a couple options, one that's about 90 bucks and then one that's about 200. So it just kind of depends on your needs and how serious you want to take the thing. So I'm probably going to go with one of those two. I'm not sure which one yet, but again, I'll put links to both of them in the description down below so you can easily find those. But then you just put the ramp at the end of the thing, you push the bike up onto it, you put the ramp back on it, you strap it down, and you're good to go. I can take it anywhere, have it when I get to camp, have it when I get to that expo, and just have it wherever I need it on the back of the truck. The fact that it's hitch mounted too makes it really easy to take on and off, so I'm excited about that, just to be able to, again, keep it in the garage, keep it charging. When I want to go someplace, throw the hitch mount on, put the bike up onto it, and then take off. All right, but so those are my uses. Those are kind of my final thoughts on this bike. Again, I haven't had it for a super long time, so I'm not talking to the longevity or anything like that, more just specs and features, that sort of thing. So again, I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, click that like button. That helps a ton, and it shows other people that this is a helpful video. In the description down below will be a link to this e-bike. So if you're looking for it and you want to learn more about it, click through that link. As I mentioned too, there will be a link to the hitch mount stuff that I was talking about. So check those out if you're looking for a way to mount it to a vehicle with a hitch. Then also in the description down below will be links to all my other social channels. So wherever you want to come hang out, I'd love to have you. I talk about overlanding stuff, camping stuff, off-road stuff, and gear quite a bit. So if you're into any of that stuff, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Also in the description down below is a link to my website where I've got stickers and patches, camping, overlanding themed stickers and patches, funny stuff. So if you're into camping or overlanding, definitely check those out. And then last but not least, there is a link to my Patreon page and also the Newbie Overlanders Facebook group. The Patreon page, we have a Discord and we chat 24/7. It's a ton of fun. And then the Newbie Overlanders group is totally free to join and a ton of fun also. So whether you're new or experienced, it's a great place to get started if you're tired of the bigger groups with people just kind of giving each other a hard time all the time. So that'll do it for the Engwe M20. If you have any questions, post up in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.